Well, hey, good morning. I'd like to chat a little bit about a topic that came up during a call I had today. A friend of mine shared the notion that we all ought to be preoccupied with possibility rather than limitation. And I think it's a great notion to kick around, and I think it's a great thing to talk about. I wanted to share a couple of thoughts on that subject. I think we live in a world that tries to discourage thinking about possibilities. I think the world really does try to tell you to fit into the mold, to get along, to do your part, to be a cog in the wheel. And it doesn't really like a lot of free-thinking people who are willing to scratch their head and say, what if, and then go do something about that. And I want to suggest that maybe there's a few reasons why we get a little too preoccupied in listening to some of those voices from time to time. I think there's three reasons, or at least three contributing factors. There's probably a whole lot more, but I'd like to at least talk about three today that I think affect you and affect me. The first one is stories we tell ourselves. How we talk to ourselves, about ourselves, how we think about ourselves has a huge influence over our outcomes in our lives. I think it's incredibly important to set goals in life. I think it's great to marry those goals to specific processes that are action steps designed to achieve those goals. But I think the goals and the processes necessary to achieve those goals are relatively impotent if we think we suck. If your mindset is that you suck, you're not good enough, you're not good looking enough, you're not rich enough, you're not articulate enough, you're not intelligent enough, you're not fill in the blank enough, you're doomed. I don't care how good your goal is, and I don't really care how good your processes are. If you don't believe in your heart that you have the capacity to do something unique and powerful and beautiful and significant in your world, in your area, in your thing or your passion, then you're toast before you get going. You've already hit the iceberg, you're just waiting to sink. I think the other thing that we do, the second one, is the stories we allow ourselves to tell about others. And we tell those stories based on other people's opinions, rumors, gossip mill, or we tell them based on incomplete data that we've gathered, and then we tell them things that limit them. We become one of those voices that says, oh, that's silly, that's too lofty, man, how are you going to do that? Where are you going to get the money? What were you thinking? Be careful, be cautious. We become that limiting voice for other people by the stories we allow ourselves to tell them. And then third and finally, the stories we allow others to tell us. And that's the circular part of what we talk. First you got to be really careful about the stories you tell yourselves. Well, you also have to be careful about the stories you allow yourself to listen to from other people, because they can feed that negative cycle that destroys your ability to confidently move forward in an area of your choosing or your calling. I think we're here for a reason. And I've heard it described that in the very best sense, our journey is as one beggar helping another beggar figure out where they can find bread. Nobody has it all figured out. Some people are much further along the path than others. Some are much further along the path in certain specific areas that they've really mastered. And that's great, and we can learn a ton from those people. But there really isn't anybody you can't learn from. In fact, I'm reminded as I'm looking in this camera right now of this book that was recommended to me by a friend of mine, 12 Rules for Life. A couple of chapters I thought I'd share with you randomly. There's 12 chapters, 12 rules for life, but here's a few of them. Rule number 2, treat yourself like someone you are responsible for helping. Think about that one. Rule number 7, pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient. If you want to accomplish something extraordinary in your life, if you want to really do something meaningful, master it. And mastery takes time and effort. There's no substitution for that. Rule number 9, assume that the person you're listening to might know something you don't. Boy, how many conversations have I started with someone else just assuming that I know more about the mortgage business or real estate or life or coaching or whatever than they do, and how wrong I have been proven to be on many occasions. Rule number 11, don't bother children when they are skateboarding. I think when any of us, children or adults, are in the midst of being creative, I think we ought to let people be creative. So those are some thoughts for you. I have not started this book yet, but I am so juiced to start it. It was recommended to me by my friend Noah Blanton. He's read it, said it's amazing. I'm going to read it. Maybe you would like to read it along with me and we could chat about it. To your success as you define it, but begin by defining it, not by allowing others to define it or your own negative self-talk. Look forward to talking to you again.